Hi, welcome back to the Ponchak preview. Today is day 29 of our NTI learning, and it is our conclusion day of our personal narrative. So that means that you are going to be working really hard on a conclusion. That does not mean that you give up the gas. Remember, at the end of a race, do you quit? Do you just say, I'm done, I'm going to walk across the finish line? No, you give it everything you've got. It's time to push it through to finish strong, and I'm going to give you some ways to do that today. So again, today we are talking about our conclusions. In your Google Classroom, you have another Google Slides that I have shared with you. Please read through it. It talks about some very, very important things on how to wrap up your personal narrative. So some things I want you to talk about with you guys is when you guys are finishing your personal narrative, there are 4 things that you can do, and there's some other things we're going to talk about with that, but ask questions that lingers in the reader's mind. Leave a decision for the reader to make, wrap up your ideas, explain how everything turns out. Those are some ways that's on your PDF sheet that I shared with you on our school website. But in the slides, some things that we're going to talk about is I give you an example of how to end a good conclusion. From that day forward, I vowed to live life a little bit more cautiously. Instead of taking risks, I've learned to review a situation carefully before jumping into something that could be hard to get out of. So that's a great example of a strong conclusion. And we're going to talk about why. So first thing that they do is that they look back at the experience. I want you in your conclusion that now that you've had time away from it, that you've grown from it, that you are wiser because of the situation, I want you to look back at it, kind of like a mirror. You're going to reflect in your mirror. How did I grow from this? And so that's what you're going to do in your conclusion. And what they did in the example I just gave you is that from that day forward, I vowed to live life a little bit more cautiously. So they're looking back, they're realizing that was a big deal for me. I am going to change because of that. So look back at the experience. So this is a great example because it's showing reflection, growth, time has passed, you are wiser because of it. It is not something that happened just yesterday because you can't grow from something that quickly. You've got to be able to reflect on it. Another thing is that you explain the lesson that you learned. So here in that example I gave you, instead of taking risks, I learned to review the situation carefully before jumping into something that could be hard to get out of. Now here's what it didn't just do. In the conclusion, it didn't just say, I learned that I needed to be more cautious. I learned that jumping off a house was a bad idea. Well, jumping off a house is a bad idea. What did you learn? How did you learn? I learned to be more cautious because. So it didn't just say, I learned this. It explained it better. So make sure your conclusion explains just a little bit. So go in, make your conclusion, the lessons that you learned, how you get stronger with it. On my example that I did for you guys, I'll go ahead and read my conclusion again. It's not long. Average paragraph. It said, I did it. I don't know if the saltiness was from my sweat or from my tears. I didn't care. I was done. I had finished my first marathon. I had run 26.2 miles. I was so glad I didn't give up when I wanted to. When I crossed that finish line, I realized that what I had written on my arm was true. You are stronger than you think. I had just finished a marathon, 26.2 miles, and I will never do it again. Maybe. So I reflected on it. I learned from it. Go and write your conclusion and wrap this up. I can't wait to read your finished products. Bye, guys.